when we touch into almost any part of the developing world, what's really happening, of course, is almost zero. The real understanding, beyond having a framework that says we need an Office of Climate Adaptation, is also extremely low. We have a unit called the International Research Institute on Climate and Society. It goes by the initials IRI, which is funded by NOAA, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration. And that's a team that is a multidisciplinary team of climatologists, agronomists, public health specialists, civil engineers, and ecologists broadly, and some economists. And they're working in a number of sites around the world. And their general take is that nobody knows what to do, because very practical issues of how much water do you let out of the reservoir are based on usually 100-year backward-looking models, not on climate forecasts. All water allocation issues are causing major stress right now. The effects on biodiversity or disease transmission are only just now beginning to get into the thinking, at least moving from the thinking on a page into something like practice. It's known that seasonal malaria, the epidemic kind of malaria, is actually correlated in part with the El Nino-La Nina fluctuations. And so there's some predictability, not in holoendemic malaria places where you have year-round infection, but where you have epidemics, that you can predict when epidemics can come with some improved skill. That knowledge is only this year starting to come into a program of WHO and the World Meteorological Organization to try to get some epidemic preparedness in low-income malaria sites. This is all hard work, and while general resilience issues may be somewhat understood, of course, because that is a traditional need, how to map from current and growing risks specifically downscaled to a region, and how to think about those risks in an organized way. What does it mean for food production? What does it mean for disease? What does it mean for water use, for uptake, for reservoirs, for downstream? In my opinion, is, as I said, almost at the starting point everywhere. And in places where this is so huge an issue, and the two most critically vulnerable places are India and Sub-Saharan Africa, it's right at the very beginning.
Lisa Madigan, Attorney General.
John, thank you. Jeff, thank you for being here. I apologize for my delay. I was busy contending with one of the things you mentioned, technology, and Craigslist, erotic services section, which I won't burden you all with, but don't go there. I want to say one thing, because what I caught from what you were talking about that I think is very compelling is this lack of a plan. You know, great vision, no plan. And I have to say that the people assembled in this room, I mean, it's a great core of people that I would say here in the Midwest, we have been addressing almost every single issue that you mentioned. And so I guess my question for you kind of to finish is talk to us about how at maybe a more local Illinois Midwestern level, we can take our plans, because we've passed legislation regarding the future gen situation and carbon sequestration. I mean, we've done some extraordinary work. We're down in Springfield right now getting the natural gas companies to have, you know, efficiency renewable standards. We did it last year with electricity. So we're really moving in the right direction. How can we take the energy and the knowledge that we have here and use that to help create a plan at a national level as well? So give us something motivating before you leave.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you for being here also. I really appreciate that. It's a great honor. There's a tremendous amount of work underway, and you reflect that. Future Gen, I still hope, is going to take place. because it's an extremely important, it's a critical project of a critical technology that we absolutely must test. And it's going to be the political breakthrough, if it works, for a lot of the coal state, non-coal state dissension over this issue throughout the country. And of course, we have Reggie in New England, and we have the coastal western states that have done things. And what I mean by a plan is a quantified scenario that will allow you to tell the people here, this is what this practically means for you. We're going to do this much, and if CCS works out, then we're going to take the following steps. We will agree no more coal-fired power plants here without CCS if the technology is proved. We can't guarantee that right now, in my opinion, unless this technology actually works. And people want to know what does it cost. So it is a matter, I think it does have to start with the president. This community has some ways to reach the president. And I believe that the president should ask his wonderful leadership team, which, as I say, is second to none in the world, to help organize that plan, not as a negotiating session. That is what Congress is doing when it's drafting the legislation, but it's a quantification that explains to the American people what this is all about. I believe climate change is not basically about negotiations. It's basically about understanding our options. And people don't understand our options. They don't know what this means. And so I think the idea that all of this is negotiation and it's all vested interests and batting their heads against each other is really not the right framing of this problem. And the same is true internationally. It's viewed as a negotiation, as how do we get China to sign up? This is not right. It's really, how do we get around the table and solve this problem? What should we do? Because I am dealing with the world's negotiators. They don't know. How could they? There are no plans. There is no quantification of these things. And so my specific answer would be to say, let the president know you have wonderful plans in the works. While you're not, you'll do your consultations with the congressional delegation with this process as it goes forward. Something else is needed. And the something else is needed is really a presidential role, not a congressional role. And the presidential role is spell this out to the American people. And we're here for you, Mr. President, from Illinois. We have something to say. We've thought a lot about this, and we know the other states have also. And so put us together. Every one of our states can add something to this file. But in the end, we want you to report to the American people. What are you calling on all of us to do between now and 2020? Tell us what you think the costs are. Tell us what you think the benefits are, because that's how we're going to get this done in the end.
Jeffrey, thank you. Great time. Well done. And I thank all of you for coming. We are reconvening at 7 o'clock tonight. I have only two words of counsel. Come early. We are expecting a full house, so if you want a good seat, you know when to get here. So again, Jeffrey, thank you. Stephanie, thank you. Bill, thank you. And thank you all for coming.